Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Dillian Whyte has resurfaced. He looks to be in good spirits, extremely excited about his fight with Tyson Fury. And Dillian Whyte is definitely promising maximum violence, but it's pretty interesting when you really think about Dillian Whyte. A lot of people don't understand why he's acting the way he's acting when it comes to the lead up to the fight with Tyson Fury and promoting the fight and doing interviews and everything else. And I had to go back and do my due diligence to put things in perspective for everyone. So we need to keep in mind that Dillian Whyte's not a normal person anyway. You know, he was a kid in Jamaica, growing up on his own. He struggled in school. Boxing saved this guy's life. You know, he come over to England because when he was in Jamaica, he didn't have any guidance. There was no parents there, and he had a kid at a young age. Comes over to England, getting in knife fights, getting in trouble, just nothing good. On his way definitely to prison if he didn't make a change. You know, so down comes boxing. Boxing saved this man's life, to be honest with you. But when you think about him growing up the way he grew up in Jamaica and struggling, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize that, you know, Whyte moved with his family to the United Kingdom at 12 years old. And I believe at that age, this man had a kid. And his paternal grandfather was an Irishman. This is his paternal grandfather. Was an Irishman named Patrick Whyte, who immigrated to Jamaica from Dublin, Ireland. And Whyte, it was 13 he had his first child. And Whyte coming to England was just hoping for something different. And I think things did improve somewhat when he arrived, but just got into a lot of trouble. He was a hothead, an ill-tempered guy. So you got to understand is, as you get older, when the foundation isn't really set properly, whatever you try to construct on top of a weak foundation, eventually it's going to crumble, to collapse. And even if the whole thing doesn't come down, bits and pieces are going to get damaged. You have to come back and rebuild that until you eventually just break it all down, a new foundation, and reconstruct whatever it is. In Dillian Whyte's case, it's his attitude. It's his outlook on everything being negative and just feeling that the world has never been fair to him. So when you think about a guy with that mentality, you have to at least try to understand Dillian Whyte and how he felt when he eventually became the mandatory challenger by the WBC in 2017. And here it is, 2022, after he's gone and clipped multiple fighters, multiple big name fighters, and still didn't get his shot. Now that's ridiculous. Okay, now I'm not an advocate for Dillian Whyte. I'm not a Dillian Whyte cheerleader. What I'm telling you is that's ridiculous, man. So then you can understand why Dillian Whyte just doesn't have time for the BS. If he feels like you're mistreating him or doing him wrong, he's just not the kind of guy who's going to fold and give in to the pressure with everything that he's going through. Remember, he's been handed the deck of cards. The deck of cards that he's been handed in life hasn't really been fair, you know. But he's found a way to win, and he's here today. But when it comes to somebody, and he feels that again, trying to give him that bad deck of cards, he's not going for it. And he has every right to be frustrated. So it's so easy for people on the outside to look at him and judge him, call him, you know, ungrateful, call him unreasonable, stubborn, an idiot, a gangster, attitude. These are all words, these are all adjectives sometimes that are used to describe people after someone has a lot of emotion stirred up in them. But it takes a person to sit back and try to peel the layers back. Because there's a time and place where I think we all can rub somebody a kind of way and make them feel like maybe we're the aggressor. Maybe we're on the edge. Maybe we are ignorant, stubborn, ungrateful. At that moment, but when you really get to the core of that person, you see that you have a great human being. It's the environment. It's our experiences that can make us have those quills shoot out if we feel like you're messing with us. And I think that's what you deal with Dillian Whyte. Now let's understand, Dillian Whyte was a kickboxer. I don't think a lot of people knew that. He became a 2-time British heavyweight kickboxing champion. Claimed the title, man. I see, this is something else I don't think people understand. Dillian Whyte is just built differently. So when you see that he's a guy who came over to boxing and started doing well, he is a fighter by nature. From a young kid surviving in Jamaica, coming to England, to this unfamiliar territory, getting in trouble, figuring out that, that's not the route he wanted to go, got into kickboxing and gets into boxing. So he has been a fighter from young. And a lot of people, I think they forget that Dillian Whyte used to be a kickboxer. But he started his amateur boxing career in 2009. He was 20 years old. Did you hear what I just said? This man started boxing at 20. Can you imagine having, and when I say boxing, I mean first amateur bout. Could you imagine that? Having your first amateur bout at 20. And look at where he is right now. We all know that as an amateur, he beat Anthony Joshua. It was over 3 rounds. There's videos out there where he showed Joshua getting knocked down and everything like that. But Whyte had a limited amateur record, 6 wins, 5 KOs. Because of a dispute with the ABA regarding his kickboxing background, which led him to turn professional, so in 2011. But this is what's interesting, right? I don't think people understand. A lot of people don't realize this man turned professional in 2011, right? And he had a bunch of fights and he was winning. But in 2012, Whyte got banned for doping. He took an illegal substance, something called MHA, methylhexanamine. And, he got banned. So Dillian Whyte, there was a time when Deontay Wilder was saying a lot of things about him, saying, we know he's a cheat, we know he's a druggie, he doesn't deserve to fight. That's because, back in 2012, he took something, whether it was intentional or unintentional, he took it. And he got banned from boxing. And he returned in 2014. And we returned in 2014 from his 2-year ban. Dillian Whyte got back to business, winning, knocking people out. And he got the big fight with AJ. It was back and forth. AJ was slugging. AJ got caught with a hook. He got hurt, but AJ came back and clipped Dillian Whyte. Okay? That's in 2015. Fast forward, he has a few more fights. He's regaining his composure because after he lost to AJ, that hurt him. It set him back. But he regained his composure and came back and kept fighting. Next big signature fight was against Chisora. A lot of people thought Whyte lost that fight, but he won on the scorecards, had the rematch, knocked Chisora out. And so in 2017, when he fought Chisora, that was for the WBC Eliminator. Now, he won that fight. So that means he became the mandatory challenger in 2017 for the WBC title. Can you believe that? In 2017, man, the end of 2017. In 2018, 2019, 2020, he's looking for the fights. That's why Dillian Whyte and Eddie Hearn were just going crazy. And they wanted to fight Deontay Wilder. That fight should have happened. Now, I'm not sure who blocked that. But I will tell you, in my opinion, the WBC didn't want Dillian Whyte to be their heavyweight champion. I just think for them, he doesn't represent them. They don't want him to be the face of the WBC as far as the heavyweight champion. They don't want that. And now he's being put in a position to go against Tyson Fury, which I think is a foregone conclusion that Dillian Whyte's going to lose that fight. But it just kind of sucks to me that when you think about Dillian Whyte and everything this man has had to go through, that they're still putting these huge obstacles in front of him. So when I think about it like that now, Dillian Whyte, from a young boy in Jamaica, and I get that family, you know, it's the whole Caribbean thing, I get it. It kind of hits home with me, right? And he goes abroad to family he hasn't seen in years, maybe some people he doesn't even know. He had to get to know them again. And now he's in England and he's ups and downs. But then, you know, he starts to do his kickboxing, turns professional as a boxer. Not much of an amateur career. Still feeling lost, still trying to sort things out. Whatever resentment he had towards parents, towards family, for no one being there for him, as a young kid at 13, ends up becoming a professional boxer. A couple years into his career, gets banned 2 years for doping. Probably didn't even know what the hell he was taking because he's that early in your career. The people around him probably didn't know either. If you look at some of Dillian Whyte's pictures when he was younger, Dillian Whyte was jacked. He had a streamlined physique. He was very fit. Not like this picture that I have here in the video. That's Dillian Whyte today. But you look at those before pictures, like when he has pictures when he was training, sparring with Tyson Fury. Dillian Whyte was in shape. When I say in shape, man, like a bodybuilder. But, you know, you get beyond the 2-year ban, then he starts to kind of build a little steam again, fights AJ, loses, has to regain composure. People are shredding him because, you know, he had to learn on the job. Dillian Whyte had to learn boxing on the job as a professional. He didn't have the luxury to have a long amateur career and have that experience. So there's definitely something special about him for him to get to the point he's reached, coming off of just, you know, a kind of brief amateur career. He's obviously a good student and had great teachers and has God-gifted power. That helps a great deal. But when you get beyond the AJ fight, him regaining himself, and then him landing a big Chisora fight, winning that one, winning that again, beating Povetkin, and then missing on the Deontay Wilder opportunities, and now here where he is. You know, you have to commend him, but you have to understand too why a person who's had to go through everything that he's gone through. And remember, he got caught up with some doping stuff again, which turned out, you know, not to be true, which caused him to miss out on an opportunity for a fight with the WBC, which for the WBC champion Deontay Wilder. But in my opinion, it was just an excuse for them not to give him the fight. But when you look at all of that he's been through, I'm not one for someone who's always putting himself in a victim stance and always feeling like the world doesn't like him or they're being done so wrong. I don't really, when I hear people talking like that, it's a turnoff. Because to me, there's people say there's 3 sides to the story. No, there's 2 sides. Okay? And I like to hear both, and then I can kind of, you know, figure out, sift through the BS, and we get to the crux of things. And when you look at Dillian Whyte, I would say he has been done wrong. Bottom line. Now, dealing with the gray area and the BS, has he created some of his own misery? I would say yeah, that's true too. But it's not fair for this man to have been the WBC mandatory challenger since 2017. That's ridiculous. So you look at him now and everything he's doing, feeling again like he's being treated unfairly with the 80-20 split. He just feels like he can't get a break. People are just setting traps all around him. No one wants to give him his respect. And I'll say this, man. You know, it probably has a lot to do with just his attitude, because it's hard to deal with somebody who is a hothead and ill-tempered, but when you understand where he came from, then it's easy to understand why he's the way he is. But at the same time, he's supposed to be a professional. He should have learned from all of that. And we can't keep, you know, dwelling in the past. When you dwell in the past, you miss out on a lot of future opportunities. And I think that hurt him a little bit with getting a chance at a shot at the WBC championship. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason. I personally think they just didn't want him to be the face of as a heavyweight with a WBC strap. I just didn't think they want him to be the face of the WBC when it comes to that. But you look at where he's at now. He's just not someone he's just not going to let anyone mess with him. And hopefully he can retract those quills if he was to win. But even if he doesn't, he has nothing to be ashamed of. But I just want to put things in perspective on Dillian Whyte. He feels like it's his time to be the WBC champion. He says he's waited long enough. He says he's been disrespected. He's been overlooked, and he has. He has an argument. He really does. The 80-20 split, to me, it is what it is, man. You know, you're not. It's like going into a home and you're looking at houses, and you do comps, and you're trying to go and have your house appraised. You can't expect for your house to appraise at $1 million and all the homes in the area going for $200,000 to $400,000. But you're looking at your buddy over here, who the houses in his name go for $750,000 to $1.5 million. It's going to appraise at more than yours, and that's the deal with him and Tyson Fury. Dillian Whyte's a house that's valued probably at 20% of what Tyson Fury is valued at. And he just has to understand that. It is what it is, man. The purses that they've been making, those are the comps. So he's lucky to get that 8 million. And if he beats Tyson Fury, he gets another 4 million. So he's going to be the guy who kind of sets the tone for himself as far as his value. He's going to set the value for himself going into future fights. And then he can probably, expect to get paid that 11, 12, 14 million, maybe no more than 15, but he can expect a range between 10 and 15 million. But outside of that, I think he has a right to feel frustrated with not giving the man the tickets, the breakdown in communication, because I get it. When you're dealing with contract, and this is what happens. When you're dealing with someone who has a bad attitude, you don't want to do anything above and beyond for him. You say, you know what, this guy is a jackass. What is he asking for? Okay, he wants to know if the money's in the escrow. Can you prove to me that it's there? I just want a peace of mind. Can you give me 200 tickets for the fight? I want to have friends and family come along. But you're going to the media, you're accusing them of all these things, you're being complicated. They're going to come back and say, okay, what does the contract say? Black and white. Doesn't matter to Michael Jackson, but it does when you're doing business. The black and white words are on the paper. And anything outside of that, they're not going to do it for you. And that's what he's dealing with. So he's got to learn that. And Eddie Hearn is really unfortunate of what he's going through, because Eddie Hearn normally handles that, and he makes sure everything is straight. Even from flying. Everybody getting private jets. Dillian Whyte's used to flying on private jets. They want this man to fly in, I think, coach or something. But anyway, he wanted to fly on a regular airplane to get to where he's supposed to go. He's used to flying in private jets. They won't give him that. And I get it. He's the headliner. Him and Tyson Fury are headlining the event. It's not the Tyson Fury show. It's not the Dillian Whyte show. So it's fair to say that he's the headliner. They're both headliners, but we don't have to be, to break it down and get all political here. Bottom line is he's a headliner. There's two headliners. He and Tyson Fury, they're dancing together. But he's the headliner. Tyson Fury's the headliner. But they can't fault him for feeling like, okay, money aside, I should at least get the same treatment or something comparable. But they're just, they're doing him dirty. But attitude has a lot to do with it. And if it's not in the contract, they don't have to do it. And that's what happens. There's a lot of times we have good business, good relationships. It's not in the contract, but give it to him. You know what? It's not there, but she wants this, just give it to us. Not a big deal, it's not worth the fight. Let's pick and choose our battles. But hopefully this is a good learning experience for Dillian Whyte, because he's finally reached the top. Let's see what he does. If he wins, he gets a shot at AJ again. And I think if he gets that shot at AJ, he has an excellent chance on winning. An excellent chance. AJ's not, he don't have the confidence that he had a couple of years ago. AJ knows he can get hurt. He's been hurt. And everyone who fights him knows that. And if Dillian Whyte touches him, AJ could be in serious trouble. But that being said, that's my little spiel on Dillian Whyte. I think people need to understand his background, understand what he's gone through, and understand what he's endured as a professional boxer to really grasp on why he is always on the edge, has this kind of what will he do next type of attitude about him. That's because everything this man has gone through from a young boy all the way up to now, and the BS is still happening to him, in my opinion. But I do think he should be a bit more grateful to what he's getting. I'm not just saying that someone is giving you what they want you to have, you should feel satisfied like that's what you're worth. No, he should feel like he's worth more than that. But at the end of the day, that's why I give that analogy on house comps and appraisal and all that. Dillian Whyte has to be fair about that too. He hasn't gone and made $25 million. I don't know, damn, $17-18 million. I mean, if he did that, I'm sure that breakdown of 80-20 would have been a little different. But it is what it is. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. I'd like to hear from you. And even if you don't, I appreciate you just taking time to look at the video, man. Hopefully it helped you during a walk or a drive. It's to hear something with not so much nonsense being spoken, but something that you feel, is worthwhile and kind of fill that dead space of your life, Anyway, I'm talking too much now. I'll shut up. Shout out to all the veterans, and as always, I'm in the breeze.